Bureau, at that time I think it was the Bureau of Reclamation, said you guys are going to have to fend for yourselves. The power has all been allocated, and so that was the beginning of Basin Electric, which basically followed the idea that Leland Olds had about building coal-fired generating plants on the coal fields. And I remember that day. There was in the Patterson Hotel, and there were a lot of people there. I think there was, according to the record, there was 69 people that signed the Article of Incorporation that day. I don't think anybody, especially myself, had any idea what Basin would become over the next 50 years. But I recall that the building of coal-fired generating plants was pretty much a new technology. Nothing this large had ever been built. And kind of liken it to the building of the pyramids in Egypt. They said, well, how did they do it? Well, at least one theory is that it was trial and error. And I think there was probably some trial and error went into the Basin Electric project. My other notion about that is that Yankee ingenuity probably had a lot to do with it. And I think a good example of that is when they used to remove the slag from the ovens or chambers where they burnt the coal, and they removed it with shotguns, which was pretty innovative in my mind. Oh, sure. Yeah, I remember the day that they decided that Jim Grawl was to be the choice for manager if he would take the job. And I think it was Verge Hanlon and probably Art Jones that went to Washington to talk to Jim. And Jim told me this story many times over the years, how he came out here and Art Jones showed him around. And I don't think Jim really had any notion that he'd do it before he started. But when he got done with him, he said he was so passionate about the project and he wanted me to head it up. So I decided that I'd do it, and he did. Well, it was, I got into the rural electric program because of a hailstorm, and that's true. We got hailed out, and I had to have a job, and I went to town, and one of my high school classmates was walking out of Grand Electric when I walked in, and they hired me. I stayed there for 31 years, plus a little. Anyway, I do remember the early days of Basin and the old Provident Light building when it was Jim Grawl, one secretary, and a bunch of managers and directors trying to figure out how to do this thing. It was a pretty exciting time. And, you think about the cost of that first unit, 200 megawatts, 36.6 million, I think. Think about the comparison to Dry Forks that you just completed, and I don't know what the price per kilowatt hour there was, but it's many, many times that. And, I always was pretty proud of Basin because when some new technology come along, they used it. The power companies, they put that stuff off as long as they could. They didn't want to spend the money, but Basin tried to keep up with the times, and, I just, in my mind, that was the right thing to do. And especially the environmental requirements and all of that. And, there's a lot of complaints about coal-fired plants, but, I tell my friends that don't really think that coal should be burnt for any purpose, I guess, that if you don't do it, you got to be willing to sit in the dark part of the time. I have probably noted for being wrong just about as many times as I've been right, but Basin had a surplus not too many years ago, and some people were kind of thought maybe we'd overdone it, and my answer to that was, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to need it. I just never, the fact that we might have been paying a little for generation we weren't using, the fact is they sold it, the surplus, and then we needed it, and we got it back. And now we're beyond that. So that surplus, to me, was a blessing, not a curse.